there at the end. Okay, everybody, welcome. We're going to get started here. And my name's Richard Colombo, and this is my good friend Ken V. Hill. And obviously, we're all here tonight to celebrate our dear friend and companion, Paul Edward Sanchez. And it's going to be a night of stories, songs, whatever you want to share, or if you don't want to share. There's a list on the bar, and you can write your name down if you want to tell a story or sing a song or whatever. And Kurt, that's Kurt right there. Raise your hand, Kurt. That's Paul's brother. And Kurt brought a bunch of Paul's CDs. If you don't have copies of Paul's CDs, they're up in front with the photos that also Kurt put together, as well as Ken. And they're free, so you can take a part of Paul home with you tonight. Ken, you want to talk for a bit?
Sure. We're going to share the mic a little bit and tell a few stories and things like that. I'm happy that everybody's here to celebrate Paul, and I asked Kirk to bring Paul's guitar. So this is Paul's Martin that's written hundreds and hundreds of songs, and we've all heard him perform that. And I wore this hat for Paul. This is a hat that I got in Mexico. That's one of the connections that Paul and I have. This came from Salina Cruz in the state of Oaxaca, and that's getting pretty close to Guatemala, for those of you. And I'm going to put that here for Paul. I think, there was a sign-up sheet, and we're going to run this kind of like an open mic, and Richard and I are going to say a few things, and then we'll get people up here to just tell a story. If you want to sing a song, a poem, or just some memory of Paul. I think, we all know that Paul was, he's a person of color. He was always for the underdog. So I think Paul would think it's apropos that we're doing this on Juneteenth. Yeah. Right? And so just, again, welcome everybody. We're going to enjoy and have a celebration for Paul. Anything else?
So where's Janny? So Janny's right there. So she did this wonderful collage of a bunch of artichokians. And you can see Paul there kind of in the center. He has his egg. So he must have been doing Picasso's mom. Yeah. There, yeah. Yeah. Yes, next to Margaret. That's right. You're right. And is that Serena next to Paul, Ken?
Yeah. So that's my daughter, and many of you might remember her when she was just a tyke, and she was taking fiddle lessons from Chris Kokesh, and at my 50th birthday party, she played Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So that was fun, and then I'm pretty close there as well to Paul. But how they grow, and my daughter Serena now is 23 years old. She just graduated from the University of Oregon, and she just spent 3 months study abroad in Spain, in Barcelona. And, she's a full-grown woman now. So, and she still plays a little bit. And she went a little bit to the dark side for a while, and she was not playing anything but just listening to pop music. But in Eugene, there's a pretty good folk music scene. Dana will probably tell us that, because Dana lives down in the Eugene area now. And so she's coming back, and she's playing the fiddle a little bit more, and she surprises me, she'll put her phone on to play music, and in the rotation is Bob Dylan, Johnny Cash, and some of the other things. And I don't think she does that just for me. Maybe there's a little bit of that. But anyway, yeah, that was wonderful when we did that. So I'm gonna do one of Paul's songs, and This is a song called Border Lullaby. And I'll first tell you a little bit about why this song is meaningful to me, and then I'm going to play a little bit of a melody. The one thing that has always impressed me about Paul's writing was he was a master at melody and prosody, you know, having the lyrics match the music and all that. And this song, Border Lullaby, the setting is El Paso on the U.S. side, and then Ciudad Juarez on the Mexican side here. And again, that was one of the areas that Paul and I really connected, was we both have Mexican-American heritage. And he wrote this song 30 years ago. So he was aware and paying attention to what was going on at the border 30 years ago. And, you know, nowadays it's in the news, you know, every day almost. So again, he was always thinking about those kind of things. It has particular meaning for me. It talks about crossing over the border and the grandparents doing that. And the timeline is pretty confusing there, those of you that are familiar with the Southwest, because that area used to be Mexico, and it used to be what's called New Spain. It wasn't until 1847 that they drew the line, and that became the boundary after the Mexican-American War between Mexico and the United States. But a lot of our ancestors were here before that, before there was a border. You know, in the 1600s is when a lot of the Hispanic ancestors came. Anyway, this is called Border Lullaby. And I have some more stories I'll tell later about Paul. I guess I can digress right away, but I better do this. This Border Lullaby, and again, I'm just going to start with the melody, because I want you guys just to hear what beautiful melody Paul has. Daddy, who is that man selling cigarettes on the street? On the street. Daddy, why is that man saying cigarettes to everyone passing by? I will tell you, my son, when the darkness has gone, that money buys food for the morning to come. When he'll stand on the bridge walking into El Paso, he is waiting at the border. Daddy, who is that lady sleeping there in a coat? In a coat. Daddy, why is that lady sleeping there as everyone passes by? She is resting her feet from these dark, dirty streets and the miles of traveling through the dust and mesquite. When she'll stand on the bridge crossing into El Paso, she is waiting at the border. Daddy, who are those children all wrapped in a blanket, lying down, lying down? Who are those children all wrapped in a blanket while we pass by? Son, they wait for the dawn when the morning will come, just to stand on the land your grandparents stood on. As they crossed in the bridge leading into El Paso, they are waiting at the border. They are waiting at the border. They are waiting. So I was going to digress into another story, but I had the privilege of listening to a lot of Paul's raw, brand new songs. So Paul lived close to Mount Tabor, and over the last 5 years, when he was getting around with a walker, I would swing by and I would pick him up, and we'd put the walker and his guitar in the car, and we'd drive up to Mount Tabor, and we played on the park bench there at the amphitheater, and we would swap songs. And again, what a privilege to be able to hear those songs the first time. And Paul was a professional songwriter. He wrote every day. And like some of us, I was just telling Dan Lowe back here that I'm more of an inspirational. When I have a good idea, maybe a hook or something, then I can write a song. But Paul was, a professional. And so that is very fond memories of sitting at the park bench with Paul. And we were in so many different places, different venues together. So Red Hair in Astoria, and Paul and Mary Ann Harney and I would drive with Red Hair in one car, and Richard and Jim and others were there. And so we were on that stage. So go to YouTube and put in Paul's name or Red Hair, and you'll find some video of Paul playing. And so that's really fun to do. Paul and I played on the Deschutes River. We used to go to a songwriting gathering there in Maupin, and I'd pick him up and we just talk for hours on our way over there, and about everything, and anything, we loved the same music, the same literature, and, we just really enjoyed each other's company quite a bit. And Paul was flirting with, a real big time success. I don't know how many you know, but Paul was a featured performer at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, and that's a big deal. And again, I say flirted with, but there are people that are covering his songs right now, bands that picked up his music from YouTube and in other ways that are covering Paul's music. So what a cool guy. I'm very happy to have called Paul my friend. So I'm going to let Richard, we're going to come up next, and then other people, we're going to start having people come up and tell stories.
Thank you, Ken. So it was 2007. It was right after Jim and I started stewarding Artichoke Music. And we changed the name to Artichoke Community Music because we wanted that word community. And I think we started the Friday Night Coffee House, and about the third or fourth coffee house, Paul walked in. And remember the old space, the tables, and he sat right there on that very first table. And all night long, he just had this sweet smile on his face, listening to everybody perform. And we didn't talk until after the show, and he introduced himself, and he said, "My name's Paul Edward Sanchez, and I'd like you to have these CDs, and I'd love to play here." Well, he became, as you remember, he was there almost every Friday night and many Saturday nights. He graced the stage there and shared his music with us, and we all have so many beautiful memories of that gentle soul, Paul Edward Sanchez. He touched us deeply. Every Friday, he would come into the shop. You remember the city desk that we had in the old days? He would come in and hang out and play a new song. Anyway, this is the first song that I heard him do, and it's one of my favorites. And I want you to sing the chorus with me. Lying down in the back seat, I am my own radio, singing along with the engine. I am 7 years old. My daddy's behind the wheel, humming the very same song. My mama's asleep in the passenger seat. My brother asks how long we will be home by morning through the back roads of New Mexico. Home by morning, I am my own radio. I can't sleep, I look out through the headlights to see the cold country rain falling down, keeping time with the windshield wipers. Daddy, are we almost there now? I'm breathing to fog up the windows, to paint pictures of our house and some trees and a boat and a star where some boy can wish, come on, that we'll be home by morning. That's it. Through the back roads of New Mexico. Home by morning, I'm my own radio. The songs that you make up to put your own mind at rest are oftentimes the lullabies that work out the best. And though the words are forgotten and the darkness has gone, those memories still linger on. Tonight I'm driving alone through the desert, styrofoam cup in my hand, singing along with the engine. I am a full-grown man, and it's me behind the wheel, with so many miles to go, with my own melodies and these old memories. I am my own radio, and I will be home by morning through the back roads of New Mexico. Home by morning, I am my own radio. One more time. And I'll be home by morning through the back roads of New Mexico. Home by morning, I am my own radio. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you. Gary, I apologize for forgetting to plug in. Jim, I think you're up next. No, I'm not. It just did.
So I'm Jim, Richard's partner. I think everybody knows that. So when I first met Paul, I was like this absolute newbie songwriter. I was trying desperately to learn how to write songs. And the first time I heard Paul play, he sang this song, and I wish I planned to find the name of it. Now I don't remember it. But it was about a family who lost a kid on Christmas Eve. Do you remember this song? Ah, yes. Oh, I was just like, I was in tears as he sang the song. And when he got off the stage, I said, I am so sorry about this. He said, about what? And I said, well, this was just like in your family? And he said, no, I made it up. And it gave me permission, you know, that, I don't have to write just about what I know. So Paul was a wordsmith, as you all know. I mean, he loved words. The first song I wrote and performed horribly on the Artichoke stage, I finished the song shaking and just stumbled off the stage. And Paul walked up to me afterwards and he said, I love that phrase you used, white knuckle journey. White knuckle journey, that's really great. Then over the course of the years that we were at Artichoke, we were in a songwriting group together that met at our house on a weekly basis. And but mostly what I'd do is I'd get a phone call from Paul. And he wouldn't say much other than, hey, Jim, Paul, what are you reading? What are you reading? We both loved reading and novels, and so we'd share writing down a list of what novels he was reading and what I was reading. And that's my fondest memory of those quick, like, I knew as soon as I heard it, I knew what he was going to ask me. What are you reading? So thank you, Paul.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Daniel, and I've been an Artichokean for a long time. I worked. Well, I was with the store over on Hawthorne Boulevard for about 5.5 years, something like that. And I got to be the host of the Saturday night shows after a while. And Paul would often come in and be part of the program and so forth. And one night he came in, and this was probably maybe 2011, something like that. And I'll never forget what he did. And I think it was because he was having some health issues and he really couldn't get up on the stage. So what he did is he stood in front of the stage with his guitar, and we tried to put a microphone in front of him, and he said, no, I don't need that. And he just sang from the heart, and it was one of those beautiful, beautiful evenings where I was left mesmerized. I just loved his songs, particularly the one, and I'm sorry that I don't have it memorized where I can speak it to you, but it was I Could Be Great at Romance. It's just a lovely song. First time I heard it was with Portland Songwriters Association. He came to one of our workshops, and he shared that song, and I was just bowled over with how beautiful it was. And I think it was what was special about Paul is he wrote about the things that he knew that were important to him. And I remember another song that he wrote was about a tree in a town, and the town folk wanted to tear it down, and there were a few people in a family that lived close to the tree, and they didn't want it to come down. It had been kind of a hallmark in that little community, and I was really touched by that too. I had the opportunity to perform with him out at Red Hair over in Astoria. Yeah, thank you for helping an old guy get through this. Richard, I think, had made the accommodations for a number of us Artichokeans to go over and play at Scott's venue over there. And Richard booked the rooms and so forth for us to stay overnight. And Paul and I shared a room because both of us were on CPAPs. The other thing to tell you about him is he never really hit the big time in the sense of, being a guy with massive radio airplay. I never did too, but I think that he and I kind of came out on the good side of things, meaning that I think when you become famous, it sometimes tweaks a little bit of who you are. And he was just genuine to the core, and his songs were so meaningful and so beautiful and so poignant. And another one of my favorites is Picasso's Mom. And he did a beautiful a cappella version of that with just the egg shaker. But then he also, when he played the guitar, it was wonderful as well. So what I'll share with you in closing is that I had written a song at Artichoke, and I thought I would just kind of recite it for you tonight. I'm not playing so much anymore because my hands are getting arthritic, but it goes like this. And I'll tell you the reason that I chose it to share with you. Don't you tell me you've been listening. Well, maybe I don't know if I can. Can I borrow your guitar? I'll try it.
You want to pick? No, you don't use it. No.
What is this thing?
Called a strap.
It's so long.
You want me to adjust it for you, Danny?
Yeah, we might need to. This gets better all the time. So much better.
How about if you sit? I can't get it in here.
Plug it in.
Oh, they're plugging it in here, boss.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Don't you tell me you've been listening. Let me imagine that you were. Guess I'm guilty of taking things for granted, assuming some connection would occur. Guys like me are a dime a dozen. Our hearts hang clearly on the sleeve. We're not wizards, a fast talk, darling, but we're never ashamed to say what we believe. One of these days, the spotlight's gonna flicker out. The voice behind the face will disappear. So may I have this moment to surrender. Glad you chose tonight. Glad you chose tonight. Glad you chose tonight to show up here. We're not wizards, a fast talk, darling, but we're never ashamed to say what we believe. One of these days, the spotlight's gonna flicker out. The voice behind the face will disappear. So may I have this moment to surrender. Glad you chose tonight. Glad you chose tonight. Glad you chose tonight to show up here. So the rest of the story is that I played that one night at Artichoke, and Paul was sitting in the back, and he came up to me after I came off stage, and he says, you know, I've listened to a lot of people write songs. I've been with a lot of songwriters down in Texas at Kerrville and other places, but I've never heard anybody write a song about thanking the audience to come and on a particular night to come and see. So it just meant the world to me that he shared that. I loved him. Loved him. Are we good, Gary? Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. All tangled up and ready to go. Fall on my face in front of the show. All right. Thank you.
Okay, we got Dan Lowe. I need some help here. After Dan, somebody wrote their name, and I don't have a clue who this is. It's I'm going to kind of come around. It's right here, right here.
Gary F.
Gary F. Thank you.
Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dan Lowe, and I got to know Paul through Artichoke and PSA. I've been involved with the Portland Songwriters for a number of years, and largely got to know Paul there at our songwriting workshops. So I could totally relate. Jim talked about it, Ken talked about it, hearing some of these songs in their beginning stages and stuff. And usually with Paul, that was, it didn't really need much more, you know, typically, but he'd bring a song and, you know, we'd have our little discussion about it and maybe try to throw in some ideas and stuff. He might have a question here or there, but just these wonderful songs that he would bring to these things, and you just go away, you know, just thankful to have been there, really. And then getting to know him personally over the years, you know, just such a genuine, wonderful guy. And the thing I remember, an experience with Paul, I remember, and I can't remember, I'm thinking it's probably was like 2008. Remember, it was sort of like the first big celebration we had at Artichoke. Yeah, yeah. And part of that whole thing was a song contest. And being a songwriter, of course, I went for that. I think there was maybe a dozen and a half or so of us that submitted songs to this. And it ended up, and I think I can't remember when I did mine. As you always are in those kind of situations, you're cognizant of trying to play your own song well enough to get it across, and you're listening to everybody else's song, and there's just sort of a natural evaluation thing, and you're kind of going, well, I think mine's standing up okay. You know, I think it seems like it's in the mix or whatever, you know, rather than being a clunker kind of deal and stuff. And I was feeling pretty good about my song. And then Paul got up. And he's saying, you know, I could be great at romance. Oh, yeah. And you just sat there and you went, yeah, that's the winner. You know, and I remember it turned out that Tom Arnold and I tied for second, but number one was his song about I could be great at romance, which brings to mind Ken talked about Paul being so good with prosody, which he was, which is the marriage of the music and the lyric and stuff. But Paul took that another step further, I always felt, because he personified the song. And I mean, when you think about prosody and you think about that song, Paul putting that song across, just that sort of the melancholy and the irony and the love and the tenderness that was there in his voice as he's delivering that lyric, I could be great at romance. I just thought it was so beautiful, you know, and so Paul. And I always had this feeling like Paul had so many great songs, wonderful songs. The line I always think of when I think of Paul was the song he had about the Hollywood sign. You know, yeah, you see the heads nodding and stuff here because we all know that song. And during Paul's lifetime, it was like, you know, I would listen to a song like that and I'd go, oh, I love that song. I'd love to do that song, but I could never do it like Paul did it, you know. And it's like, it's his song, let him do it. And now I'm thinking, okay, he's left us these songs. And really, it's our duty and our responsibility to carry that forward, to keep it alive and everything. So I'm going to start looking at, you know, what are the songs of Paul's that I can introduce into my performance and keep those songs alive. And I just encourage everybody to do the same. So, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
I'm going to do it from back here just because it's logistically complicated. You know, I'm the guy that records everybody and sees everybody on that stage. And one of my great memories of Paul, other than, and I'm sure somebody else is going to talk about this, going to Ireland with him a number of years ago, that was just, I mean, it's an exquisite experience anyway, but Paul and I were the less ambulatory group. And so we sat around a lot at the main house and played songs to each other. And that was just so enjoyable. And I thought I'd heard a bunch of his songs going to Artichoke all the time. But he kept popping out this net and went, oh, did I ever play you this one? No. I could be more depressed here at the Songwriters Convention, but sure, play me another song, Paul. But working with him and Andy Anderson to put together their world tour show that was here on that stage. I think there might not even have been a stage yet. The first months that we opened, they came and performed it. And so if you get some time, go online, search up Andy's website, and you'll find some of those songs. It was an incredible night of Top This. And Andy and Paul were well matched for that. And it was just one of the most extraordinary things. And I got to sit there and post-produce the show and mix it for video, and just sit there and wonder at the gentleman that came up with those songs. It was just, and everything's from the heart and the brain, but mostly from the heart. And just the kindness and the friendship of him, I'll never forget. And I was, you know, that's why we're here tonight. So I'm not going to get too maudlin, but if you get some time, search that stuff up. It's on the internet somewhere. And look at that show. It was just incredible. I know I'm going to go back and watch that show again because it's just the songwriting quality, the performance quality, and the essence of the man just comes through the TV, comes through the microphone. And it was incredible. One of the more pleasurable shows I've been able to part of here. So, okay, thank you.
So next up is Mary Ann, and I want to tell a little story as Mary Ann's walking up here. But Mary Ann and Paul and I were driving to Astoria right when I had lost my own brother, and so Mary Ann and Paul, they really consoled me right before we went on stage in Astoria, and I'll always remember that trip because of that. Mary Ann had a big part in providing that.
Ken's on patrol now.
Okay, got it. Okay.
We're taking it. Just pull it down, Ken. It's really hard.
My own mother was 5 foot tall, you know, and
I'm
so
short.
I always
I'm
liked
shorter
small
than
ladies.
that. Okay, that might work. Well, probably most people here know me, but my name is Mary Ann Harney. If you don't know me, I met Paul at Artichoke, and over the years we became really good friends. At that point in time, he could drive. He had a truck, and he would often pick me up and give me a ride home to many, many shows. And we just got to be really close. We'd text, email, call each other, go out for lunch quite often when he was able to do that. I belong to a senior group at my church, and there were a couple of times in the past year that he actually came and played for our group, and they just loved him. And he did it twice, I think, and they would often say, when is your musician friend going to come and play for us again? But then, of course, it got to a point where he really couldn't do that anymore. But they, like all of us, were just amazed at the songs that this man could write. And I just know I'm really going to miss him, especially our lunches, our phone calls. And I think of all the songs he's been writing over the last few years that we're never going to hear. And so, because sometimes when he'd call, I'd say, Paul, have you written anything new? And he said, oh yeah, I wrote a couple of more songs this week, but when am I going to hear them? Oh no, they're not ready for anybody to hear them yet. So now, of course, we're not going to hear them. But we have the songs we do know that are also wonderful. And I don't know if anybody's going to do it tonight, but my favorite song of Paul's, and he knew it, was When I'm Holding You. And every time I'd get a chance, I'd ask him to sing that for me, and he would. So, yeah, he was a great guy. We're going to really miss him.
They're all things that are linked with Paul. So I used to be on the board of Artichoke Music for 3 or 4 years, and was helping as much as I could. So we had a fundraising. We had a house concert at my house, and John Richter and Janny were in charge of the food, and my wife Roma and I were in charge of the house and setting up chairs and everything like that. And Paul was the headliner for the show. And of course, he played awesome and all that. So now John Richter's going to come up and say a few words.
So, yeah, everybody has said all these things about Paul. And the thing about Paul is that, he was so great and he had no ego that put on over anybody. He always appreciated everybody else's songs and what they did too. And that was a very beautiful thing about him, because when you're a great songwriter, sometimes that kind of carries you away. And I remember Janny and I went down to visit him after he had hurt his legs, and he was at a recuperation center or something. What? Rehab center, yeah. And it was like we were invited into his living room. It was, and he was so thankful, so appreciative, and so welcoming. And we just talked and talked and talked, and just had a wonderful time. And I remember in the old Artichoke, when he would get up, he had trouble getting up the stairs, but when he got up there, he had the audience in his hand in 2 words. Everybody was there with him, and he just had that charisma about him. Well, I didn't know this was an open mic, and so I didn't come with my guitar, but I did bring harmonicas, and so I just thought the last minute this might be a good song. I don't know. Let's try it.
Thank you.
Some of these people won't brag about themselves, so I'm going to brag for Janny is up next. And Janny is an amazing artist and photographer, and she's taken lots of good photos of all of us on stage and everything. So Janny, you're up next.
I don't get up here too often. I'm not really a singer or a songwriter. But I spent about 12 years volunteering behind the bar. So I got to listen to everybody. And Paul was definitely one of my favorites. Paul had grace and, his heart is as big as he was. And every time he saw me, his face would light up. And, you just feel that love, and it would just make me feel so good to be in his company, just by who he was. He was a beautiful man, and his music, I could listen to him all day long, I think. All of his songs are so heartfelt and thoughtful, and the work that he did with children was a big thing. It takes a really special person to have that job. So, anyway, I know we all love Paul, and I think we'll probably miss him a lot.
Richard mentioned that there's a couple of boards with photos in the back there, and I brought one. And going to Paul's work with children, and he was working at Grant High School. That they have a Grant magazine that did a special session on Paul, and it's back there on one of the boards if you want to read about what Paul did. Again, he was a healer in so many ways, and that reminded me of that. And they're again just fun photos and other things like that. I put a couple of his lyrics down, ones that I always think of. The funniest things, combinations. Rattlesnakes for breakfast. I don't know. Things like that. Okay, Bob Sterry.
Well, I've been coming to Artichoke since, before Richard and Jim, when Steve and Kate ran the place. So it's become almost part of my DNA. And I think that's a pretty damn good thing. So my memories of Paul are few and far between. But I have to say that seeing him on stage was so cool. Somebody mentioned charisma, and he had it. And his songs, of course, you've all said, are just wonderful. I'm sure he wrote some terrible songs, but most of them were pretty damn good. And my favorite is Home by Morning. As some of you already mentioned. And so some of you know, I'm a poet, and I write some pretty dreadful poetry, and now and again I do a good one. So some years ago, I went home to my hometown in England, and I went to lunch with some old friends. And I have to tell you, don't do that. Don't do it, man, because these old friends, I used to hang around with them in the 60s and early 70s, and we would just roam around the countryside, driving from one dam pump to another, getting into trouble, and we were wretched people, really, but we had a good time. Fast forward to some years, and I found them to be utterly boring. We went to lunch, and all they could talk about was their golf scores and their retirement funds, and I thought, fuck this. So I walked down to the bookshop, which in my hometown has been my nemesis for a long time, and I bought this book, Poems and Readings for Funerals. And I was gone for about 45 minutes, and when I came back to the pub, they were still talking about their fucking golf scores. And they said, what did you get, Bob? I said, oh, this book about funerals. So I'm going to read you two poems from this book for Paul. This is by Christina Rossetti. Remember me when I'm gone away. Remember me when I'm gone away, gone far away into the silent land, when you can no more hold my hand, nor I, half turned to go, yet turning stay. Remember me when no more day by day you tell me of our future that you had planned. Only remember me, you understand, it will be late to counsel then, or pray. Yet if you should forget me for a while, and afterwards remember, do not grieve. For if the darkness and corruption leave a vestige of the thoughts that once I had, better by far you should forget and smile, than that you should remember and be sad. And this one by somebody you probably don't know, Joyce Grenfell. She was an unusual British comedienne, and she wrote this very short poem. If I should go before the rest of you, break not a flower, nor inscribe a stone, nor when I'm gone speak in a Sunday voice, but be the usual selves that I have known. Weep if you must. Parting is hell, but life goes on. So sing as well. Thank you.
So I'm Lori, for those of you who don't know me. And I met Paul when I went to Ireland for the first time in 2017. And it was a great adventure. I'd never been to Europe before, that part of Europe, rather. And we were in the town of Donegal. It was the night before, I think we were all scheduled to go out to the Glen Columkill, where the retreat was that Matt was leading, Matt and Nancy, man. And I saw Paul there, and we kind of exchanged greetings, and then we were both completely wiped out from traveling all the way. And then we connected again, of course, at the house that we were all staying at. And the thing that I remember the most about him was he just carried this amazing grace about him, and openness and love, and as so many of you have said, he was just gifted with words and stories and music, and he just made it seem so effortless, you know. And as you've all mentioned, listening to him sing was just wonderful and so inspiring. And I'm not one of those kinds of songwriters. I usually write a song every 3 years or so. But so I was always so impressed that it just poured out of him naturally. Anyway, I wanted to do this song that I learned and sang in Ireland. It was written by Robert Farina, who is the husband of Mimi Baez. And he put it to a traditional Irish tune that I'm sorry I don't remember the name of, but he was an Irish American. And it's called The Quiet Joys of Brotherhood. As gentle tides go rolling by along the salt sea strand, their colors blend and roll as one together in the sand. And often do the winds entwine to share their distant call, the quiet joys of brotherhood, when love is Lord of all. The oak and weed together rise along the common ground. The mare and stallion, light and dark, have thunder in their sound. The rainbow sign, the blended flower, still have my heart enthralled. The quiet joys of brotherhood, when love is Lord of all. But man has come to plow the tide, the oak lies on the ground. I hear the fires in the field, they drive the stallion down. The roses bleed both light and dark, the winds do seldom call, the running sands recall the time when love was Lord of all. For Paul.
Next up is Sandy.
Maybe I'll stand here. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. I don't have anything like that, but that was incredible. That was so beautiful. I met Paul in a Grant High School classroom, and we had some of the students from Providence Children's Center there, a lot of them, and he volunteered there quite a bit, and so he knew a lot of the students, and he worked in that classroom, and so when I happened, we had the pleasure of having Paul's concerts, you know, like once a week. He would bring his guitar at least once a week, and music was a big part of their classroom, and so the students were used to music, but when Paul would sing, I think he would sing not just his songs, he would sing other songs, but it was wonderful. It's like a lot of the students had disabilities, and so, but it'd be like he was sharing his love with them, and they could receive it, they could receive it, and you could noticeably see like a change in the classroom, and we would all receive it, so not just, so I just wanted to, I'm just so glad that I got to meet Paul and hear his music and see him in action and see his concerts. He would invite us to Artichoke. You should come, and I never made it to see him play on another stage. I just got to see him play on the Grant classroom stage, which was wonderful. Miriam?
One of the songs that he would sing for the children was Puff the Magic Dragon.
Right. And I got to meet, Miriam was also part of that classroom. That's right. That was a favorite. Was a favorite of mine. And when it's a wonderful song. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. So, you're welcome.
That Puff the Magic Dragon, that reminded me, Paul was so eclectic, and he'd be singing a Beatles tune, and then maybe he would sing a Monkees tune.
Or Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson, something like that. He loved Linda Ronstadt. Paul and I went to see the movie about Linda Ronstadt at the Academy, and we both just really enjoyed that a lot. Don, you're up next. Paul's work, with kids in the back there. I have a little part of his lyrics to the song that Paul wrote called Brian. Which is an amazing song. So again, there's different things to look at back there. And, he had songs for every event. He even has a song for this event. So the song is As It Is on Earth. And that's from, I think, Long Story Short, is the CD, the recording that has that. And I put the lyrics back there as well. And read those lyrics, because Paul has lyrics for this event. What we should do when Paul passes on. He wrote it down. So when you go back there, read that, As It Is on Earth, which is so clever. The Lord's Prayer, as it is in heaven, and Paul, as it is on earth. There comes Don.
I was hoping to be able to sing one of Paul's songs without the words in front of me, but I'm too nervous to try that. So I first hung out with at Artichoke about 2008. Let's see, let's do this first.
Do you have a plug-in on that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so please.
So I didn't know Paul well. I saw him a lot at Artichoke. I went there about 2008, 2007, 2008, when I no longer had to be a full-time dad because our daughter was well into college by then. And I was just blown away by Artichoke and met Richard right away, and Daniel was in the store as well. So, and I ended up volunteering there for several years, and I just couldn't get enough of it. But I was only there on Fridays. I couldn't go on Thursday nights, so open mic nights, because I would get up at 4 to go to work, to get ready for work, and I couldn't do that. But I saw Paul a number of times, and I was just, I mean, he was just magnetic, and his songs were just, every single one of them was, I never heard a song that I didn't just enjoy immeasurably. And they span a huge width of emotions, and some of them are pretty dark, and some of them are wonderful. And I wanted to choose two of my favorite songs. One is Picasso's Mom. I thought that was such a funny and great song. And this was called Rattlesnakes for Breakfast, which is also, it's so much fun to sing and play. So. If I had my druthers, I'd tell you what I'd do. If I had my druthers, I'd tell you what I'd do. I'd quit my job next payday and put my walking shoes. Play bass, banjo every morning, swim in the afternoon. Go camping every weekend and howl up at the moon. And I'd have rattlesnakes for breakfast, sugar in my stew, whiskey in my coffee, and a dream to hold on to. A billion stars around me to count before I sleep. Rattlesnakes for breakfast, and a dawn dream that I can keep. I'd climb up the Sierras and not be scared to look to fall. I'd ride my bike around the town in my cap and overalls. I'd listen to the wind and I'd learn to sing along, without a soul around me to tell me that I'm wrong. And I'd have rattlesnakes for breakfast, sugar in my stew, whiskey in my coffee, and a dream to hold on to. A billion stars around me to count before I sleep. Rattlesnakes for breakfast, and a dream that I can keep. I'd wake up in the morning with the sun come shining through the thunderclouds of yesterday into a sky of blue, to see, to soar just like an eagle when it finally learns to fly, to smile just like a baby and never one question why. And I'd have rattlesnakes for breakfast, sugar in my stew, whiskey in my coffee, and a dream to hold on to. A billion stars around me, count before I sleep. Rattlesnakes for breakfast, and a song that I can keep. Rattlesnakes for breakfast, and a dream that I can keep.
why you're not saying anything. I won't put Kirk on the spot and ask him to introduce me. But I'm Judith Kate Friedman. I live in Port Townsend. And I met Paul in the fall of 1989. Rod Kennedy, the producer of the Kerrville Festival, had decided to start the Napa Valley Folk Festival. And a whole bunch of us came together who were playing in the contest. And I was very honored to, first time I had ever applied for such a contest, I heard that I had to do it from another songwriter. So I was like, okay. And then I got to be one of the lucky finalists, and so was Paul, and a whole bunch of us who are still in touch with each other all these years later. It was like, sort of like when you have a college class of whatever year. It was a thing like that. And so Paul and I met then. He won the contest. There were 3 winners, but he was one of them. I don't know for which songs. And then we just kept in touch, and we saw each other at Kerrville, and then Rod started the Columbia Music Festival in Spokane. So I think it was the second year of that I also, we all kept playing in these contests. That's the other reason we were like the class of. We would keep seeing each other in this thing. And I needed a ride suddenly because my ride fell through. And Paul was living in Ventura County, and I knew he was going to have to drive up through the Bay Area where I was living. And I just got my courage up because we didn't know each other all that well outside of the songs and all that bonding around the songs. And he said, well, I'm not sure. I have to ask my brother because we have this road trip planned, and it's a very special brother thing. And I was just not finding another way to the festival that I could afford. And all the way Spokane was like, now I live in Port Townsend, I know where Spokane is, but right then I didn't even know where Spokane was. And, but they were both very, very kind because the whole family is very generous. And I said, I will pitch in for gas money and I'll just make myself scarce in the back of the truck. And my whole life changed because of that trip. Paul won the contest again. Is this working for you? Yeah. Okay. So I don't have one of Paul's songs. I do know this one song, A Drop in the Bucket, and that I want to relearn. So I think Kirk's going to help me get that together. So I'm so glad to see you and all of you again. There's a couple other things I want to say before I start this song. It wasn't only Paul's heart, it was his sound. It was like his sound had his heart in it. There's just something that you have certain people in their voices that have this resonance. And like the heart is a very strong muscle, he would say. And that just the way he would sing the word heart, that was one, just like that. So as another songwriter and singer, performer, I'm completely moved by everything you all have said about Paul and this thing about his sound, like how he embodied the purpose of each song and each note in the song. And the other thing is his sense of humor, which we have alluded to, but when Kirk and I and Paul and Kirk and then I in the back seat, and then eventually we all rotated around, but I think you might remember this idea, but I don't know if it's widely known, that Paul had this idea of making a book, a picture book, a photo like a coffee table book called the Folk Singer's Guide to These United States. It was a joke. You remember this? And I don't know, were there more of these photos? Somewhere in my photo collection, I have pictures of Paul pointing like... to famous things or not so famous things. And can you imagine it? I just wanted to share that tonight, because who else would I share it with but you all, and who knew him so well. But the folk singer's guide to these United States, he would say. So this is a Kate Wolf song. I think that Kate Wolf's song really meant something to Paul, if I recall correctly. And she, in her sound, in the way she would be able to hold the serious and the light at the same time. To me, Paul and Kate Wolf are of that kind of songwriter. And this one I know well enough, I think, to sing rather than one of Paul's. That'll have to come later. It's an unfinished life that I find lies before me, an open-ended dream, and I don't need to wake across so many rivers in search of crystal fountains, found the truest sounds always come through mountains. I've seen water on the sky and fire burning on the lake. You said to me, I cannot make you happy like a wounded bird. You must find the way to fly. Time can paint the treetops with colors of the rainbow, but you cannot find the end no matter how you try. It's a journey with my soul that I am taking, one that only goes from the cradle to the grave, going round in circles like painted dancing horses. Up and down we ride on the wooden courses, and the light in a lover's eyes is more than I can save. You said to me, I cannot make you happy like a wounded bird. You must find the way to fly. Time can paint the treetops with colors of the rainbow, but you cannot find the end no matter how you try. So I'll take the day and run out across the open field where the grasses rise and evening shadows fall, where my eyes can see all the colors in the air, so quiet that the wind whistles through my hair and takes the rising dust and carries it away. You said to me, cannot make you happy like a wounded bird. You must find your wings to fly. Time can paint the treetops like colors of the rainbow, and you cannot find the end no matter how you try. You said to me, I cannot make you happy like a wounded bird. You must find the strength to fly. Time can paint the treetops with colors of the rainbow, but you cannot find the end, no matter how you try.
Well, I'm feeling pretty overwhelmed at the thought of living the rest of my life without Paul nearby. So one of the most generous, kind, and beautiful human beings I've ever met. And amazing songwriter. Sometimes he was in my class, you know, and we'd meet once a week, and he'd come back with like 10 every week, you know. And when he came to the island retreat, he wrote at least a song a day. I think he wrote several a day. And there are a lot of his songs I really love. This is my favorite, and I'm hoping I can sing it. I could be great at romance. I could be great at romance if I ever fell into that circumstance. I could be great on a warm summer night, under the moon, holding somebody tight. Love never pauses to enter my sight. Can you help me? I could be great at romance. With practice I could possibly learn to slow dance. I could be great on a walk in the rain, holding your hand to a Gershwin refrain. Love never pauses to mention my name. What's your name? I dare you, I double dare you. I don't mean to scare you away. Just that I'm lonely, and I guess that I only
want to be part of an old cliche. I could be great at romance if you'd allow me to take the chance. I could be brilliant, brilliant, I know that I could. Don't let my intentions be misunderstood. If you'd care to show me, I know I'd be good. If you would just throw me a glance, I could be great, I could be great, I could be great at romance. Thank you. It's really beautiful to be here with everyone and celebrating Paul. And I keep looking up. He's on the wall up there, so keep looking at that painting. And much love.
Thanks, Matt. Reminds me of another project that we did together. I helped produce a CD that was a benefit for Sisters of the Road Cafe, and Matt was featured on that, and Richard and Paul. We had a couple of Paul's songs. One of my favorite songs is "Long Story Short." You know, I'm a human being. That. I'm not going to sing that now, but that made me think of that. Long story short, and all the various things that Paul had. I'm going to do a Dylan tune, "I Shall Be Released," kind of a group singer along, so people sing. And then I think Richard's going to play one after me, and, you know, step up if there's still people that want to say something. We kind of feel like we're winding down a little bit, but I'm certainly happy to stay as long as anybody wants to stay and talk about Paul and the various things that, you know, Paul did, and, you know, lots of stories, luckily, to take along. I don't know if Kirk knows this, but I've been at his house several times playing music. So Paul used to house sit for Kirk when they would leave town, and he would invite me over sometimes, and we'd swap songs at Kirk's house. So you didn't know, but I've been to your place. They say everything can be replaced. Every distance is not near. And I remember every face of every man who put me here. I see my light come shining from the west unto the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. Yonder stands a man in a lonely crowd, a man who swears he's not to blame. All day long I hear him shout so loud, crying out that he's been framed. I see my light
come shining from the west unto the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. They say every man needs protection, and that every man must fall. But I swear I see my reflection somewhere high above this wall. I see my light come shining from the west unto the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released.
Thanks, everybody. Richard told me he was the song he's going to sing, and I mentioned that the title of the CD is Song for Sisters, and we have about 10 or 11 songs on there, and Richard's song is the very last one, very apropos. So Richard, why don't you come up and do Traveler for us?
That's great, Ken. So, back at the old Artichoke, Paul was always there, and we all got to know him there. As I don't know if he was able to come to this locale as much because he had that accident and stuff. But anyway, during my time there with my partner Jim, it was his home away from home. And I would just like to, Artichoke gave us the space tonight to come together and remember Paul. So if you could make a generous donation to Artichoke Community Music in memory of our beloved Paul Edward Sanchez, that would be lovely. Farewell, my gentle traveler. May all your dreams come true as you leave in the morning light. My thoughts will go with you. Farewell, my strong and trusting friend. May good fortune guide you on your way through the changes and the shifting tides. We'll love you till our dying days. Farewell, my friend. So long, my beautiful. Be well as you travel down life's highway. Farewell, my sweet. Goodbye, my love. May we meet again another day. Farewell, my my seeker of distant shores, may your songs be filled with harmony. Through the ever-changing seasons, may you always be happy and free. Farewell, my friend, so long, my beautiful. Be well as you travel down life's highway. Farewell, my sweet. Goodbye, my friend. May we meet again another day. Farewell, my gentle traveler. May all your dreams come true. As you leave in the morning light, my thoughts will go with you. As you leave in the morning light, my love will go with you. We love you, Paul. Thank you so much. So I don't think you have to rush off if you want to just hang for a while and go check those CDs out if you haven't, and the photos, and talk to your friends or whatever. Yeah.
Was there anybody else that wanted to say anything? We kind of feel like we're coming to an end, but thank you everybody for joining us in the celebration for Paul. And, you know, sharing stories I'd never heard before, and the beautiful things we all know for Paul. And so, yeah, for Paul, vaya con Dios, mi hermano y mi amigo. Just a second. Let's hold for a minute because Kirk wants to say something. Kirk is Paul's brother.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you to everybody.
So what do you say when your brother passes on? Like I said, Paul and Marianne were with me when I got the news that my brother, who was living in Colorado, passed away. You know, it breaks your heart, and you're happy for the good times and the good memories, and you know, we've all tried to share little different things that we all knew about Paul and shared his songs and all that. You know, Kirk, we're just so happy that you're here. And I know that you were at Artichoke many times when Paul was performing, and we've seen our families grow up together. You know, I remember your daughter dancing there at Artichoke, you know, and now she's grown up. And I've seen earlier my daughter has, but yeah, thank
Plus,
you.
I think you're the reason that Paul came. You drew this wonderful person to our
That
community.
might be true, Paul. When Paul, you know,
In the midst.
he moved from Austin. So when Paul moved from Austin, so it's been close with Paul more than 15 years, and luckily Rick was already living here, so probably had something to do with Paul coming to Portland and for us all having our lives with you.
We were going to have Scarlett, and he wanted to be a part of her life. And so I also want to add that one of the main reasons why he wanted to come to Portland is he was aware of the Artichoke music community. And that was another deciding factor in his move from Austin to Portland. So he found his community here, and it's obvious now.
And that's what I was trying to say is thank you to the community for coming.
Sure.
And it's been really touching and nice to hear everybody's love for him.
Mr.